You already know why we're here. Let's just roll the intro. Yes. We're finally back at it with another book haul. So I don't necessarily feel the need to justify myself here because a lot of these were pre-ordered ages ago and some things have either just finally came in stock or I've just eventually received them in some way, shape or form. But I didn't really spend too much money on this book haul at all. This is just more like an accumulation over time and over postal delays, you know? Some of these I was also given permission to take from work as well. So yeah, I've pretty much got like a range of stuff here. But you know, I didn't anticipate to reach another over 50 books this quickly. So I guess without further ado, I'm gonna get straight into this haul or else we're just gonna be here forever and I'm just going to justify everything. Let's go. First lot of books I would like to haul today is a trilogy by Jessie Mihalik. I don't remember what this trilogy is called. What I do know is that the titles are here. Polaris Rising is the first one, second one is Aurora Blazing, and the third one is Chaos Reigning. I've heard great things about this trilogy. I actually heard about this trilogy before I first read Jessie Mihalik and I wasn't too sure whether to give it a shot, and then when I ended up trying out Hunt the Stars by Jessie Mihalik, which is somewhere within the piles right now, I ended up thoroughly enjoying that one and I decided that I wanted to give more of her books a chance. So that is exactly what I'm going to be doing with this trilogy. I honestly cannot wait to read it. At the time that I'm filming this, I have not yet read it, but who knows, that might change soon because I do have plans to read it within the next few months. The next book I have to hold from this pile is The Last Time We Met by Emily Houghton. I hadn't heard anything about this book, but I saw it at Big W. I was very much intrigued by this cover and I thought to myself, look, I'm at Big W right now. This is probably the cheapest I'm going to be able to buy it. So I'm going to buy it now. So that's what I decided to do. I didn't really spend much on this book haul, but I do have to say with the money that I did spend, it was kind of worth it. Even though I have not yet read this romance novel, but I think it's a second chance romance or it's a romance that blossoms over 2 decades. So I'm very much intrigued and curious to see how this goes. And speaking of romance novels, we have a few of them here in this haul today. I've got The Roughest Draft. I have heard great things about this one. In fact, I've heard some people compare this to Emily Henry's book or even go as far as to say that this was better than any of Emily Henry's books, which has been fascinating. It has been intriguing. I only heard about this book very recently, but apparently it's been out for quite some time. So I just decided when I was looking at The Last Time We Met to pick this one up as well because this one out of the books that I purchased was one that I did hear about. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think I'm gonna read it when it's warmer because if you guys don't know, I'm in Australia and it is winter here. It is cold. I'm currently filming when it's like 8 degrees Celsius. Speaking of summertime reads, this book right here, The Layover, was one that Camilo purchased for me. And I'm so grateful that he purchased it for me. Have I read it yet? No, I'm such a bad wife. But anyway, I will get to it. I promise, Camilo. This one book intrigued me because of its cover, but I've been hearing a lot of people rave about it since I first looked at the cover. I think this might be a hate to love romance. I don't know if it's a hate to love romance or a slow burn romance. I don't know, but what I do know is that it is a highly recommended book for romantic trope lovers. And it seems to be a summary book as well. I mean, look at the cover, and I believe it is about a flight attendant. I recently heard someone talk about it on their channel, and it's just reminded me that I need to pick it up soon. So yes, I will get to it. And speaking of books that Camilo bought me, he also bought me The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely generous, absolutely sweet. He loves this cover. I love this cover too, so I decided I would allow him to purchase it for me. However, since he gifted this book to me, I've recently heard some very mixed opinions about this first book in the series. Honestly, I don't know whether that comes down to the fact that this is a debut novel or whether it's because that people just don't love the love interest and the love interest seems to be ideal to some people, not all. Now I will proceed to read this novel with caution, knowing what I already know now. I didn't know about these reviews until Camilo purchased it for me, and then I went on Goodreads, and then I started watching BookTube, and I've been hearing some mixed opinions about The Wedding Date in particular. However, I hear that Jasmine Guillory's books do get better at some point, so I think I'm gonna be willing to stick it out. I don't know. We'll see based on this first read if there's potential there for me to continue on with the series. But at the end of the day, I'm so grateful I have an amazing husband who just loves to buy me books and to satisfy my book lover cravings. Oh my goodness, I love you, Camilo. And another romance novel I have to hold today is one that I've actually read. Wow. And that, my friends, is Love at First Spice. Wow. Love at First Spice. That really should be a book title. Love at First Spite by Anna E. Collins. What I do have to say about it is that I really enjoyed the story. However, I felt like in the second half, the conflict took over the story, and this is a romance novel. I mean, this is at least marketed as a romance novel, but it honestly feels mostly about the conflict at the end of the day. I did still enjoy it, and I reckon that if the novel was longer, if it fleshed out the romance that was going on in here a bit more, I would have loved it even more, because I wanted to go into this wanting like a good romance novel. I don't mind conflict. I think that the conflict in here was very reasonable. However, it didn't satisfy my need for romance as I was reading it. But I still very much enjoy this novel, and I definitely will be revisiting it in the future because I had a really fun time reading it. And now I'm gonna get into some manga. First of all, I'm gonna talk about the next few volumes in the Mao series by Rumiko Takahashi, who is the author of many popular series including Inuyasha, which I will be mentioning later as well. I just started the Mao series. In fact, as I'm speaking right now, I've only actually read one chapter of the Mao series and I put it down. I think it was because I was sick, but yeah, I started reading it when I was sick, and that wasn't a good idea because like I really do want to read the series. So I've slowly started collecting the volumes so it doesn't really get overwhelming later. But what I do know is that I really do want to read this series. This is actually an urban fantasy-like series that has to deal with exorcism. The first chapter was very intriguing. I cannot wait to continue on. But I also very much love Rumiko Takahashi's very classic manga style. I really love the covers of this series, but also as you read the manga, you just get more of that classic art style. And for some reason, I enjoy it. Not everyone enjoys it, but I do. And speaking of manga series continuations, I have volumes 6 to 9 of Chainsaw Man. And yes, if you are wondering, I've already read these. I've already devoured these. This series has definitely become one of my new favorite manga series. Arc 1 is almost done. I don't have volume 10 yet. I'm still waiting for volume 10 to drop in a store so I can read it and I can devour it, because I desperately need to know what happens next after the cliffhanger that we were left on in volume 9. I can't take it. You would not believe this, but I stopped filming an hour ago because someone decided it was a good idea to jump on a phone call in our hallway and scream while they were on the phone. That conversation lasted too long, and finally I can get this done. The next manga volume I've got a haul is Platinum End Volume 1. This was actually written by the author of Death Note. I actually know nothing about Platinum End. All I know is that I want to read it because I love Death Note. I heard that this is a Shonen Jump series. Yes, it is a Shonen Jump series, confirmed. However, it's rated mature. I can't necessarily disclaim why it's rated mature because I know nothing about the series. Unfortunately, cannot give that to you. However, if you are considering reading this series, mature is pretty much a lot of the time somewhere between like 17 to 18 plus. I am very much intrigued. I think that this is some sort of paranormal action series and it is 14 volumes long. It's only just coming to a conclusion very recently, so I'm very much looking forward to reading it and letting you guys know how I go with it. I'm happy that I at least have volume 1 at the moment. And then I've got a haul volumes 3 to 5 of the King's Beast series by Ray Toma. I actually started reading this series. I'm around 1 volume in now and I cannot wait to continue on. I've mentioned this in my previous book haul. This is kind of like a Mulan-esque series where the female protagonist cross-dresses and disguises as someone for infiltration purposes. I've heard really great things about this manga series, so I am very much looking forward to continuing on. And speaking of fantasy manga, I've got the Elusive Samurai Volume 1 here. I have read the first volume. I read this in June. Another series continuation I have to haul today is Volume 2 of Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible. I love the series so much. It is absolutely cute. I think I find it hilarious because the way that the characters are drawn, like the female protagonist is drawn in the most artistic way, and then this is how the male protagonist is drawn like the entire time. He has like the smallest eyes. It's hilarious, but it is absolutely cute. This is such a wholesome series that deals with anxiety, and oh my goodness, I just cannot get over how adorable this series is. I cannot wait to continue on. And the next 2 manga volumes I have to hold today are volumes 1 and 2 of Orochi. What I do know is that these are volumes 1 and 2 of a special collector's edition set. I believe that this series is going to be in 4 bind-ups. Also, what I know about the series so far is that it's some sort of a supernatural horror series. I was very much intrigued, and so I decided to pick these up. I really love the art style based on the front covers. They just look absolutely stunning. I just really love these editions. I don't know why. I seem to be intimidated by Junji Ito's work. However, so far I feel more gravitated toward Orochi, so I might start off with Orochi first and then move on to Junji Ito just to get the feel of the genre before going into Junji Ito. I do want to read Junji Ito eventually. It's just I know it's going to take time for me to warm up to it. I mean, come on, G-Swizz, you read Berserk. And speaking of manga that is absolutely thrilling, I have volume 2, or bind up 2 really, of the Alice in Borderland series. Actually quite shocked that I didn't pick up the sequel straight away, because I was so shocked by the end of volume 1 that I had to continue on, but I didn't have volume 2 handy. And the last of the manga that I've got a hold today are the next 3 bind ups of the Inuyasha series, so bind up 4, bind up 5, and bind up 6. Altogether there are 18 bind ups, but Camilo is currently reading through them. He's absolutely loving them. I have not yet read this series, and yet we're accumulating them. However, I'm including them in my haul because I do plan to read them eventually, especially because I want to read Rumiko Takahashi's work. Inuyasha, I've been recommended many times. I finally got to make it happen. I finally got to satisfy the fandom and let them know that I've at least attempted it. It's got to start somewhere, I guess. But I'm very much looking forward to reading this series because I keep on hearing from Camilo how cute it is, but also how compelling it is, how action-packed it is. He just loves it. Now I move on to a fantasy romance series by an author that I have hauled before, but I have not yet read. And that, my friends, is Emma Hamm, and this is the Of Goblin King series. I saw the series on Amazon, and I don't know why. I just really wanted to read it for some reason. I don't know why this attracted me to the series, but the books are like really short. However, it's a 5-book series. The idea of like a novella-esque series being like long enough to be a full series, but also the books being novellas, I don't know what attracts me to a series like that. But for some reason, I just decided to pick this series up like out of nowhere. So I'm very much looking forward to reading it. I'm actually very happy, very blessed that the Amazon printers at least printed everything in the same height, because yeah, that did not go well with the Fallen World trilogy by Laura Thalassa. And also at this time, I'm really wanting to try more fantasy romance, new adult that is independently published. I have been reading a lot of traditionally published fiction recently, but good old fantasy, new adult romance, I'm here for it. So I do want to try out the Of Goblin King series. And next I'm hauling Not the Witch You Wed by April Asher. As soon as I saw the title and the cover, all I thought to myself was, is this a comp title for the X-Hex? I loved the X-Hex, so I want to try out a book that's similar to it, and this seems pretty similar to it. I saw it in the romance section, I had to get it. That's pretty much all there is to it. I don't really know much else about it, but apparently it's young adult fiction, even though it seems to be more new adulty in terms of like premise. I think because of like Not the Witch You Wed, I think to myself, okay, instantly that's new adult. And then when I went onto Goodreads, I found out it's a YA, so we'll see how this goes for me. Speaking of romantic reads, I've got to bring up Hunt the Stars by Jessie Mihalik. Yes, the author of the books that I started off this book haul with. I have read this one, I loved this one, and that's the reason why I purchased some more of her books, and I cannot wait to read more from Jessie Mihalik. I'm desperately in need of the sequel for this series because the way that this book ended, I just knew I needed more. And next I bring up the most recent Fairyloot paperback as I'm filming this, and that, my friends, is Twin Crowns by Catherine Doyle and Catherine Weber. I've actually read from these authors separately, like at different times. I read like a Christmas novella by Catherine Doyle, and I ended up reading a contemporary novel by Catherine Weber. What I do have to say is I do like both their writing styles, so I'm very much interested and intrigued to see how it's going to turn out in this novel. I do like the pages on this one. I don't necessarily like the cover that much. I think it's because I've seen the Charlie Bowater cover, and I know that Charlie Bowater has illustrated many covers. However, I feel like that illustrated cover as opposed to this cover seems less like an arc than this cover does. For some reason, when I look at this version of the cover, I think that it's an arc. I think my mind just associates it with an arc. Maybe I've seen too many arcs in my lifetime. Maybe it's because I work in publishing. That is essentially how I feel about this cover, but I do like the stenciled edges. I reckon that the stenciled edges look absolutely pretty on this one. The next book I have to hold today, I actually purchased with my Waterstones order that I actually made a few months ago that I did talk about in my previous book haul, but for some reason this book was massively delayed. But it finally came to me. I just really wanted this book in hardback. I love the cover design of this book. However, I couldn't justify paying like 35 Australian dollars for a trade paperback and only seeing trade paperbacks in bookstores. So I added this to my UK Waterstones order because of its cover. And that, my friends, is A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. I love this cover so much. I don't even like what Illumicrate did as their like customization. I understand that the font looks a bit better on that edition and the design looks okay. However, I really love the colors on this one. This edition looks absolutely stunning, and I'm so happy I have added it to my collection. Another reason why I can justify this purchase is because I have read from Rebecca Ross. I read Dreams Lie Beneath by her, and I absolutely loved that book. So for some reason, I was compelled to read A River Enchanted, but I wanted to get it in the edition I wanted, and this was the edition I wanted at the end of the day. And another book that I pre-ordered like months ago that I was more excited about months ago than I am now now, unfortunately. But alas, I do want to read it sometime. I don't know, I'm just currently not in the mood. Is Forging Silver into Stars by Bridget Kemmerer. I was more enthusiastic about this before. I think I was more enthusiastic about it when I first heard about it. Now I'm no longer enthusiastic about it, and I think that I'm no longer excited for it because, you know, the ending of the Cursebreakers trilogy, it's kind of settled within me at the moment even more, and I've just become more disappointed with it that I just wish that any continuation in this series would have to do with Harper, because I just want Harper to be happy. So if I don't hear that Harper is even more happy, or just happy in general, when it comes to the spin-off series in this world, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Honestly, I think I'm just a little bit bitter on her behalf right now. But I'm gonna read it eventually and we'll see how it goes. And the next book I've got to hold today is The Blood Trader by Lynette. This is the final book in the Prison Healer series. I also included this in my Waterstones order because I wanted the UK hardback, and I kind of wanted the UK hardbacks so that they could match in height with my Fairyloot hardbacks. I don't know, I just like having all the designs together. I have already read this. It was an explosive finale, one of the best finales I've ever read. The next book I got to hold today is River of Shadows by Karina Hale. I received this in my adult April Bookish box, and I'm absolutely delighted by that because it looks absolutely stunning. I am just obsessed with the spread. I'm obsessed with the stenciled edges. There are waves there. I had a really fun time unboxing this. I do have that unboxing on my channel if you do want to check it out. So many great items, such a great book. I mean, I haven't read it yet, but I kind of know that I'm gonna like it. In that same video, I unboxed the Fairyloot exclusive edition of Her Majesty's Royal Coven by Juno Dawson. I kind of like the pink cover better. However, I do like the detailing on this one. I did show that off before, but I don't know. I really like this part of the customization, but I am very much looking forward to reading this one regardless. In my Bookish box YA box, I ended up getting Together We Burn by Isabel Ibanez. I really like the customization underneath here. It just looks absolutely adorable, if you guys can see that. Also like the alternative dust jacket. However, I do like the font on this one better. And also, I believe this is a page insert. I love me some good fan art. For my May Young Adult Fairyloot, I ended up pulling The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. I am so looking forward to reading this. I have not yet read it, but it's a Middle Eastern / Arabian inspired fantasy. I'm not actually too sure. I haven't actually read anything about it in the synopsis, but what I do know is that a lot of people are raving about it at the moment. I need to be on the hype. But a Fairyloot pick that I have read, in fact, I kind of just recently devoured, is This Vicious Grace by Emily Theed. Wow. I had no idea what this book was about before going into it. I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna go into this blindly and we're gonna see how this goes. We're gonna see where this takes me. Honestly, the only thing that was drawing me into this book was the fact that it had my name in the title. That's the kind of hold my name has on me. I get curious about books that either have my name in the title or if my name is one of the characters' names in the book. Sometimes the Graces end up being bratty, like, you know, Grace Blackthorn, or the Graces end up being cool, Grace from Crave, you know? But this book, wow, incredible. Honestly, in my opinion, even though this is a new release, more people need to be talking about it. It is that good, in my opinion. Very well written, and I cannot believe it was a debut novel. It was written that well. We've come to our final 3 series in this haul, and the only last out of the 3 that's not a special edition series, however, these are repackagings of a series that I just desperately wanted to get because I like the designs of these covers better, are the new hardbacks of the Wicked Villains series by Katie Robert. These hardbacks are absolutely adorable. They all have illustrations of the different characters that are in each different book, and I'm just absolutely in love with them. So I ended up pre-ordering these from the Book Depository months ago. Like, I'm talking about maybe 6 months ago. I don't know, when they first came up for pre-order. They finally came. These weren't recent purchases at all. These weren't an impulse buy. This was planned. They just look so pretty. Now I need to finish the series. I've only got the last 2 to read, so we've got to make it happen. The second last series I've got to hold today is the Four Horsemen series by Laura Thlassa. And these editions were done by the Bookish box. We have Pestilence, War, Famine, and finally we have Death. So I only just found out today, as I'm filming this video, that War is missing chapter 21 or chapter 12, one of the two. The Bookish box are going to send out new copies with the extra chapter, or with actually the chapter that they were missing initially. So I'm gonna have a spare copy of War that's not completed, but I'm not mad about that because they all kind of look very pretty. I also really love the stenciled pages on the other side. All the designs technically look the same almost as the front cover underneath. Underneath, we've got like a little bit of character art of each, but like not too much, honestly. I really like what the Bookish box did with this customization. I like the way that they shine. Yeah, I don't know. They just were really creative with these designs. They are very heavy. All of the Bookish box custom editions are always really heavy, but they're so worth it, especially when it comes to being quality collectibles. And speaking of quality collectibles, the final books I have to hold today are my long-awaited Crave set from the Bookish box. Oh my goodness, they missed my address in dispatch initially, and that devastated me. But I finally have them. If you guys might be wondering why Court has a VI on the spine, it's because they made a mistake and they're going to be sending out a replacement dust jacket for it, okay? So don't worry, they've acknowledged the mistake. What I love about these editions so much is that they make Catmere Academy on the spines. Look at how beautiful that is. Also, the covers are absolutely adorable. So we've got Grace and Jackson there. I believe on book 2, we've got Grace with her gargoyle wings, and we've got someone mysterious in the background. These are really heavy. On Covet, we've got Grace, Jackson, and Hudson, and here we've got Grace and Hudson. My ship. Behind here, we've got some really cool stenciled edges. I really like the symbolism on the stenciled edges. There's different foiling on each cover. They just look absolutely stunning. I believe we've got Macy on here. That looks absolutely beautiful. I'm trying to work out which is my favorite cover. I think, I'm not too sure, but I mean, they all look very pretty. But what I find personally weird is that Grace is only on the foiling of Court. And you know what's also a little bit ironic? Grace kind of looks like me, but when I had my curly hair type, which is fascinating. I don't know, I just felt like that's pretty cool because I could easily cosplay as Grace. Grace can cosplay as Grace. That's awesome. I think in all honesty, my favorite cover in this series so far has got to be Crush. I don't know, I just really love Grace with the gargoyle wings here. I reckon that they look really awesome on her. But in terms of coloring, I'd have to say Covet. I reckon that Covet has a good contrast between the green and the red. That is my book haul. That is gonna be it for this video today, book lovers. If you happen to stay to the end of the video, leave me the book stack emoji because we do that for book hauls here. If you happen to enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet already. Join the amazing community of book lovers. Also, I have social media. I'm at gswizzlebooks on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm also Goodreads. That's www.goodreads.com/gswizzle. And finally, I'm at TikTok. I'm at gswizzle on TikTok if you want to follow me there for some bookish content. I love you, book lovers, and I will see you later. Peace.
How did I weigh half when I flipped it in a double? How did I weigh half when I flipped it in a double?